Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon to most of you, good evening, and to everyone else who is watching later. Hello, hello. Um, I just said before I started the recording that I'm so excited. I'm deeply excited to deepen this work we're doing. The last time we were together, we also spoke about, asked questions about, held this idea of pain. If it's necessary, if not, what does that mean? What does it mean for us as practitioners? So today we're going to deep dive. We're going to go a little bit deeper. In December, we'll go deeper still. In December, I'll be teaching a 3-hour class where we'll hold it even more. It's a rich topic. So I'm going to begin with a description of this class. This is the description that you all received. It's a short little paragraph. So it says, the concept that pain might be of some benefit spans multiple spiritual, theoretical, theological, and philosophical traditions. Is pain a necessary component to growth, evolution, and healing? Eckhart Tolle has said pain is the touchstone for all spiritual growth. We see this sentiment expressed in other literature as well. Some people have reported pain being a necessity or a necessary part of waking them up to the next stage of their lives. In this class, we will hold the possibility and the question, is pain necessary for evolvement? We will also hold the question, is pain necessary or effective in touch-based or bottom-up practices? So the name of this class is Don't Need to Hurt to Heal. Don't need to hurt to heal. This phrase came to me when I was in a session with somebody, with a client, a reflexology client, and they had said, and those of you who are reflexologists or massage therapists may have heard these kind of things before, where the client is like, you can go deeper, go deeper. I like deep pressure, go. And I've heard so many things over the years to this end. And so this recently happened. This client said, you can go, much deeper. And they had expressed that they like deep, deep pressure. And before expounding, because with some clients, I will give a little taste or a little bit of education. I don't want to talk during the session or talk too much during the session, but with some people, they may want to know. So I'll offer it in some cases. But before I expounded, before I did that, I said the words, I don't need to hurt you for you to heal. Um, and I remember as I was saying it, the words were very slow coming out because they were not, I don't need to hurt you to heal you. They were not that. My words were not, I don't need to hurt you to heal you because I don't believe I have the power to heal you. I deeply believe every single person, deep, deep, central to self, deeply within them, has the power to heal, to be healed, is already healed, is healing, exists in that same framework. Everything exists. Every possibility exists. Just a matter of where I am in my perception of self. Where am I as I gaze at myself? Is my perception that I'm in a state of dis-ease or am I healed? So I said, I don't need to hurt you for you to heal. And I also said, and it might be counterintuitive to the healing process for me to cause you pain. So I don't remember what more I said there, maybe just a sentence or two. And then they went, oh, okay, okay. But often in my classes, what I will say and how I will continue to speak of it, and I'll speak of it now, is, we're composed of these receptors. We have, or sensors, the word is interchangeable, right? We have these sensors all over our body, and they receive external stimuli, right? So, and we have a variety of receptors. One of them, namely in our class today, is the nociceptor, or what is called nociception. So it's N-O-C-I. Noci means pain, right? Or noxious. That would be the longer version of noci, right? Noxious. Pain. Scepter, the second half of that word, nociceptor, septor, means receptor. It's a shortened word of receptor, that which receives, that which takes in, what detects, right? It senses from the outside. So a nociceptor is a pain receptor, something that has the ability, a receptor that has the ability to detect pain. Now, now it detects pain. It doesn't actually receive pain and express it in some kind of way. It actually just detects the possibility, right? Potential pain. This potentially could be painful. So what the receptor then does is it has to go through another process to get more information from the out from deep more deeply within to see what to do about it, right? So that process then will go from the peripheral, right, from the periphery out here, the peripheral nervous system, to the central nervous system, and it's going to go through a process. And there's a couple different processes I'll talk about today. I usually refer mostly to one, the one that involves the spinal cord and the brain, but I'm going to talk about another option today too, because we'll end with a little bit of subtle reflexology moves at the end of our time together. So generally, if I press deep, this would be the example. If I press deep, 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 that nociceptor says, ooh, that might be painful. That might be painful. Let me see what I can do. So it's going to send a message. It's got to communicate to somebody else. It doesn't know on its own. So it's going to send the message up this elaborate circuitry, this beautiful circuitry, like what turns on lights, right? Like the electrical system that turns on a light. It's going to send a message and call up as if to say, what do I do about this? And it's calling up that question, that message, that signal. It's saying, what do I do about it? That nociceptor on the bottom of your foot that I'm pressing in on, the nociceptor receives, sends the message up the spinal cord as if to say, what do I do about it? Shoots up, goes to the brain, receives that information, and shoots it out for processing. And remember, the brain receives information on the most basic level, like a computer, receives information. It processes information. It retrieves information, old memories, old stuff, like it's going to lay down imprints of things to retrieve later to make stuff go more easily, right? So it might retrieve information. And then also what it's going to do is send responses. So it receives, it processes, it retrieves old memories, old stuff, old data, and then it's going to send a response. So if I go deep, 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 the response that's going to be sent back is going to be one of a motor response. It's going to say, pull away from that tactile input that is going deep, deep, deep. That is the conversation. That's not a conversation I want to have. I don't want to have a conversation like that. I don't want to have a conversation like that with a friend or a receptor. And I think of our receptors, our cells, our bodies like friendship, right? So the example would be a receptor receives, much like a good friend really listens. So if this is so, my touch input, my touch input is talking. I'm talking to my friend. I'm talking to your tissue, right? I don't want to yell at your tissue. I don't want to yell at my friend. I don't, I want to speak gently, kindly, deliberately. I want to speak clearly. I want to have intention. I want to have intentionality, right? I want to speak from my heart. I want to speak with love. This is how I talk to a friend. This is how I'm going to talk to your tissue, right? This is how I'm going to interact, how I'm going to speak with your reflex points, your reflex areas. That's my job as a reflexologist, is to be that good of a listener and that good of a communicator, right? So I press here. A stimulus occurs. A message is sent without conscious thought, right? It's autonomic without conscious thought. And the process of receiving and processing it'll feel like instantaneous. My timeline, the way that I perceive time is way too slow. I can't even articulate. It is hard to put to words how quick that response is after gathering, processing, assessing, organizing, retrieving, and then sending a message, right? And when it's retrieving, maybe it takes a hair longer in that land, in that world, right? So there might be similar stimuli, right? Has tissue been hurt in the past? Has this type of pain happened before? My way of being with pain, with painful sensation, all of this is taken into account, and then a response is sent. So that's one perception. There are other possibilities and theories, and those of us, and not everybody who participates in these classes or watches the videos later is a reflexologist. So you might not know this, but in our studies early on, we learn about the different theories. And there is another theory that suggests it's not entirely necessary for it to go all the way to the brain, right, to get the response. Namely, we're looking at what is called a reflex arc, ARC, or reflex action, right? So this involves very similar system, but slightly different in that my touch input, I have or my tactile, so where's my foot? I just recently moved, so I have no idea where my foot isn't here. Yes. When I unpacked, I put it here. Okay. This is my foot. Okay, so my touch input, I go into the tissue in the foot. This is foot reflexology saying. All right, so my touch input. The receptor receives that input, right? That receptor receives the input, and some sensory neurons are going to send messages to the spinal cord. It's sent to the spinal cord, right? Just there. And then there are neurons there that are going to relay the information. So that relayance that is happening at the level of the brain can also occur at the level of the spinal cord. So it's going to relay that information as activation, that information as activation, right? And it's going to send another response, really communicative, right? It's incredible. It's like a game of telephone, right? We're continuing to pass it on. So it receives the stimuli, it passes on to the sensory neurons. That's going to relay the message to the relay neurons. And those relay neurons are going to talk to the motor neurons, which talk to what are called effectors. EFFECTORS, effectors. Effectors are cells, their organs, their glands, their muscles, their everything, right? That which is effected. You could say affected too, but it's effected, meaning something that can be created, something that can be, I would even say restored, something that can be created, something that can be brought about, something that can cause to change. A great action can take place, right? That's how I am perceiving it. So to cause something to occur, right? It's a potential, it's an action, it's a response. So that reflex arc enables a reflex action. So this is why, in this case, if I'm going deep, deep, deep into your tissue, especially if I'm listening, is going to pull away, right? And you might not even realize. And if I'm really, really listening, there'll be micro gestures of you pulling away from my touch input. So this is me yelling at tissue, the thing I do not want to do, right? This is what I don't want to do. So a nociceptor is a pain receptor. It detects pain. It talks to the spinal cord, and it also talks spinal cord brain. So it can make a short journey or a long journey. So the tissue itself may speak back, right? So it may pull away. It may lean in. It may relax. It may allow me even to go in deeper. And it may also communicate to any part of the body based on what we call a reflexology mapping system. And that reflexology mapping system I'm using also has a response, also has an incredible communication system similar to what I just described that goes to the organ, gland, system, muscle, cell, etc. Some people say it's like a hologram. I like to think of it even more the way my mind works. I think of macro and micro scale, right? It's more of a replication. It's a replication of what exists on a larger scale, represented on a smaller scale. So that which exists in the cosmos, the so-called finite universe, is finite within the confines of a human form. So I can look out into the cosmos and see all the stars, all the planets, and I could look within and see all the cells, all the neurons. So for me, that's my way of perceiving a larger scale object. I describe it in my reflexology book like that, right? This idea that, if I want to build a big house, I gotta lay down I gotta actually sketch it out. I'm gonna do a small scale version of it to give me an idea of where to put those rooms. Um, so then, and this is going to lead us to our first question. Why would I want a client to have a motor response? Why would I want them to pull away from their healing potential? Whether they know it or not, whether their tissue's doing that, whether they jerk away and it's a larger response, or if they go, oh yeah, yeah, no, that's painful, but it's okay. I know it has to, no pain, no gain. So why would I want my client to have a motor response that pulls them away from the healing process, their healing potential? My answer is absolutely not. No, no, no. I want my client to lean towards. I want my client to lean into their healing potential. The part of them in my purview, what I believe is it's the part of them that is healed. It's the part of them that is healing all the time, that makes a choice to be healed, right? So reflexology is just me nudging them in that direction. I'm just nudging them. It's my way of saying, this is what a parasympathetic state might feel like. My touch input gives the client a taste of what parasympathetic land looks like. It's relaxing there, right? You want to live there. You may have been living in another land far, far away for a long, long time. But the moment I visit my true self, my soul, having met itself, more at ease, parasympathetic, right? Rest and digest, easeful state, that place, it's like pack up your stuff or leave most of it behind, right? Leave all your stuff behind and go to parasympathetic land. If I had a board behind me, I often will draw this in the live classes, especially in reflexology for trauma and addiction, because we're looking at these states of existence of where it's not even a choice anymore, right? I've just automatically I would find myself in places that are really overwhelming. I feel overwhelmed. This would be the lower end. If I had something to draw on, the lower, I'm going dipping down into overwhelm. I can't stand it. I can't take it anymore. It's too much, right? I might be down deep into overwhelm, or I may be high, high, high into sympathetic, where everything is crazy and it's way too much in a stimulating way, right? Like everybody's cutting me off, and this person doesn't get me, and that person won't talk to me, and why? So oftentimes life is me dancing between these states of hyperactivity and sympathetic land. That's the sympathetic land, sympathetic responses, sympathetic nervous system, or I'm in total overwhelm and I can't handle it. I just want to collapse and sleep. Now, in between those two is this place I speak of, this parasympathetic land, and we don't have to just visit for an hour while we get our reflexology session or cranial sacral session or whatever it is that helps you, nudges you into that place. I actually can make a choice. I can make a decision to visit that place more often. I can do things in my life that move me further and further away from the chosen pain the pain I'm often choosing. It's a real delicate thing, and it's hard to say. Um, it's hard to say because I can say I chose that. There's a part of me that chose that. And someone else would say, no way, I didn't choose that. But if I'm looking at the way that the brain takes in data, if I'm just looking at it from that standpoint, more scientifically, and I'm able to rest in my heart and step away emotionally and just really look at the way that the brain lays down memories, it may be possible. It may be possible that yes, I have chosen this. And how can I rewrite my story? Um, so what I'm saying is, I believe, and I want to hear what you believe now too. I believe not causing you pain. By not causing you pain, I help you to arrive at places deep within you where you may see where you are healed and know what that healing potential, what that parasympathetic state looks and feels like. So I believe I must not cause pain, especially in my bottom-up practice of reflexology. So my question for you, those who are here and those who are watching later, to reflect, maybe even pause and write it down. What is it that you believe? Do you believe, or how would you get yourself or your client there? Does there need to be some kind of pain, alternating pain? Does it need to be deep? What do you think? What do you believe? And you can just unmute or write a little bit first.
Chantel, I think it depends upon the client and their
Mm,
experience. So I've had situations where I dance with the person's feet, where there's a level of they are saying, I don't want you in. Could be just even me just going to the solar plexus, a very subtle. So there's a level of me having a conversation with their tissues of like, you're safe, it's okay, you can let down. And the thing that's key here is that the person consciously, most of the time, doesn't know that their body is pushing back. And there's just this level of this like not feeling safe. And so for me, it requires me to remember to get back in the back body, to really look and make sure that I'm not pushing my energy or my agenda on the client, and to just really be present. I pause and I like have a conversation, and then I'll start the reflexology session over again and see if the body is willing to go again. And I've been in situations a lot where I will be putting my thumb in or a finger, and and usually it's a thumb, and especially in those parasympathetic points, and the person, that it just sucks your finger. It just sucks your finger, and it's like saying more, please. I want more. And so there's like, and sometimes I have a conversation with a client when that happens. So it's very interesting, the dance of like, I don't want to do any harm. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in doing, I feel like if I press too hard, then the body automatically, it's like deep tissue for me, where it's like, I don't get relaxed. It's like you're there. It's just too much. There's that fine line. And so when somebody says, I want to, you can go deeper, I'm always like, no, this is okay. You get the same results when I'm going the way I am going right now. And, and we always talk about pain. I always talk about pain beforehand. It should be good pain. You should be wanting more of it. There's like a release that sometimes happens. So that's been my experience. And I've been really observing that for a long time. It's really kind of very interesting to watch. Yeah.
beautiful. And thank you for using that word, dance, this kind of dance that takes place between client and practitioner. Yeah, and that's interesting because that then it makes me think there are times, unless it's tango, then one person's kind of leading, but in many, it's a very difficult dance to do. Uh, but in many forms of dance or fun dance, we're constantly giving it away and taking it back, and that receiving and giving is really beautiful. Yeah, really
It
good.
is a dance. I liked that. I like that description, Lori. That was really good. When I first took my reflexology training, the very first thing she drilled into our heads was it does not have to hurt. So that has stuck with me ever since. And it's really kind of interesting that I just signed up for this webinar this morning. I just saw it. Tuesday, I had a client who was like, you can go deeper, if you want. You can use more pressure. And I was like, oh, okay, well, you don't really have to. And I explained, everything. But I deepened my pressure a little bit, but then I lost him. So I was like, I just did my normal routine. He didn't even notice. At the end, he said, that deeper pressure was really great. Thank you. I'm like, you're welcome. And then this morning, the same thing. I had another, she was a new client and she said the same thing. She said, if you're worried about hurting me, don't, because I have a really high threshold for pain. I'm like, okay. She said, you can go deeper if you want. I said, okay. I explained again, it doesn't have to hurt for you to get the benefit from the session. And the same thing, I deepened it for just a tiny bit. And then she was like snoring. So it was like, just did my regular routine. And she's, thank you so much. So I think it's just, I don't know. I just find it so interesting.
Hmm.
Some people want that pain, but it's not like a massage. You go for a deep tissue and it's going to hurt and you expect that. So I think sometimes when people are expecting that from reflexology, if they don't really know what it is or what the benefits are from it, they just think it's a foot massage and it should hurt. I don't know.
Beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I'm really, yeah, it's really good. I like what you said about the part of the actual listening, not just listening to tissue, but listening to what someone says, right? And they
Mhm.
say, like it deeper. Like, okay, we can deepen our pressure. And right, what you said is really good. It's like it can be met, that request can be met, and then there's a possibility of actually returning to that listening and maybe
Mhm.
it's returning to that dance again. So it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be deep the whole time. We requite the wish, right? We requite that message or that request. Yeah, really good. I think that's really important. And also what you mentioned, that we mention it isn't necessarily of benefit, or right, it can be we get the same benefit, or I would say it can be even more beneficial.
More beneficial.
Yeah, when I back off, if I don't
Mhm.
hurt you, there's actually greater benefit. Yeah,
That's very true.
awesome, Sharon. Yep. What else? Anything else?
I wonder if there's still that mentality of no pain, no gain. Do you know what I mean? That is sort of still a little drilled in our society in a way. So it's like, okay, it has to, again, you have to have the pain to be able to feel like you're having something or having an experience or something is happening,
Totally.
right? It's
Yeah,
very interesting. Yeah.
absolutely. I think it's absolutely still ingrained, still there. Yeah, and then we get to like have conversations like this, and then within my own, conversation with myself, can I continue to pause? Can I continue to slow down? Right. Both of you know this, right? When we slow down in level two of reflexology for trauma and addiction, we start to look at our sentences. We start to look at our words. We start to look between our words, underneath our words. Words and sentences accidentally can be quite violent, quite intense towards self and others. So if I really am slowing it down and looking at the words that I choose, there's a lot more possibility that I can make contact with my inner body and begin to make a real connection with that vulnerable, soft part of myself. It could be very scary if I'm not used to greeting that part of myself. But little by little, I slow down, 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 and I can begin to sense what is quite subtle and gentle. And the more I can live there, the more I believe I'll be able to receive that same kind of gentle, subtle work from practitioners, but also from my relations, how I interact with strangers, friends, etc., lovers, all of it. Everything begins to shift once I become more gentle, deep, deep, deep within myself. Anything else?
Chantel, that reminds me of when I'm in a deep meditation or I did a sound bath at a yoga studio about 6 weeks ago, and it was okay. I have to be honest with you, Susie, who is a MAR in Massachusetts reflexologist. She does the sound therapy, and she's amazing. She intuitively knows, and it's really very different. But what ended up happening is that after the sound bath, I am so deep. When I go deep, and this is what you're talking about, I don't want to talk. I don't want to, I just want to be, it takes effort to be able to say anything. And it was so interesting that all around me were people talking and speaking. And it really took away from what happened. I mean, I still was able to stay in that space, but I felt like I really wanted the person who was in charge of running the sound bath to be like, and when we end, then I am encouraging you to walk quietly outside, out and up the stairs. And once you're up the stairs, you can have a conversation, but to keep it very quiet so that it's an inward journey.
Mm,
So that to me, I mean, it's hard. It's really hard, but I love that because to me, that tells me that I'm really in that state of like, I don't need anything.
yeah,
I am perfectly content and perfect where I am because it's just perfect, you know?
absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a phrase that says, the way is wordless. Those moments where, like, there's such alignment or such beauty, right? At the top of a mountain where it's just, there are no words or a feeling so deep, right? That occurs between two people. It's just, there are no words. I can't express. So I love this phrase, four words. The way is wordless. So if I am aligned, if I'm on the path, words fall away, right? There becomes almost that's how I know I'm where I need to be when the words fall away. Beautiful. Anything else? Oh, hearts. Yay. So good. Um, Wanted to introduce anyone, and a lot of people who end up watching, who attend and who end up watching later have been in my classes, at least online, if not in person. And one of the things I love to do is to animate my organs and glands and tissues. And I think I do that because that's what helps me make sense of anatomy and physiology is to like break it down into a way, almost like that movie Inside Out, right? I want to understand things very simply. So most people have heard me speak again and again about how hypothalamus is mama, pituitary is papa bear, adrenals are, the kids. When I'm speaking about the HPA axis, the hypothalamic pituitary axis. And that helps me talk about and teach about what it looks like when there's this communication going on between glands. And so I was thinking about receptors and how receptors to me are like I was saying, like they're like middlemen or middle women. And that kind of got me thinking of two things. One, the receptor literally is kind of like a middleman, right? Or a middle something. I wish there was another word for that, a middleman, in that it is taking information and passing it to somebody else, right? It's like I got that and I'm about to pass it on to somebody else. But the receptor also is kind of like a practitioner, right? I am the middle woman, right? I exist at the precipice. I exist at the precipice between one's state of, or one's perceived state of dis-ease and one's healing potential, right? I stand at the precipice between two states of being for someone else's process. I'm actually there as a witness too. And so in thinking about that, again, just deepening what I already believe, why would I want to press so hard that the tissue would push me out? And does not healing transpire when I allow, or when one allows, when one feels so safe, they're like, okay, let in, let go. Um, the example I give, and Sharon, I think you said it when you were speaking of, I think it was you that when you were speaking of like, yeah, a deep tissue massage, right? That idea of I may go in and go, yeah, no pain, no gain, like you said, Lori. Um, but if someone is totally collapsed, and maybe there are some emotional reasons for that collapse, and I, maybe as a massage therapist, try to pry them open, pressing deep, deep, deep to push. Notice the words again. I'm going to push you into expansiveness. I'm going to pry all these words, right? Listen. I'm going to listen to myself. I'm going to pry you open. I'm going to get this chest really open and expansive. Then what? Now, here the person is, the client in this example, all open and vulnerable and hasn't been living there, maybe for 30, 50, 70 years, has been here. So I think I have the audacity to pry somebody open, to push them into expansiveness, go deep, deep, deep in order for their musculature to respond, which it will, right? To open. Then what? We got 1 day, 2 day, maybe we got a week of like, ooh, that feels really good. Maybe there's a little bruising, there's a little bit of pain, but it's all good because I can take it. All the things I say to myself, right? But then what? There often, and I've seen it so many times, there often is a return to the collapse. So then my job and my question for you is then this, like, what then do I, what do I do? I personally will work very, very gently. And the conversation becomes like, maybe here, are you ready for like just that? Are you ready for just that? The littlest, it just could be like one little micro gesture that might open up the thoracic cavity. Is there room for one breath? Is the breath a little bit deeper? It's a very slow, subtle way of me perceiving another and me perceiving myself. It's also, I guess, the practitioner has to ask themselves too, what do I believe? Do I believe that if I push and go deep, 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 that I can make somebody do this? Is my ego, is my pride attached to that result? And if that result is only going to last 5 days, then what? Or 2 days, and then they return here. So I believe the client can have that expansiveness, can have that little bit of a deepened breath when they themselves open organically. And it can happen, and it does happen. It happens all the time. The gentler I become, the more I let go, the more I don't try to fix you, control you, change you, the more I just stay, as Lori said, in my back body. Let you see me. I really see you. And I listen to your tissue. I listen to your words. I listen to what you're saying. It's inevitable. Your body just goes, makes a little bit more room. And now we have this possibility of continued action, continued conversations. And that conversation could be tactile, it could be literal, etc. Um, Yeah, and I think it's an important question, and it can be a question that I take into my life. We can take it into our lives. Where and in what ways do I invite pain in? Um, and if I'm really holding that question of like, there's the one way of thinking, oh, it's okay to hurt, but conversely, maybe I want to learn to unfold. I don't want to learn to take more pressure and more, like it's like the workplace. I could take it. I could take it. No, give me more work. It's okay. Oh, no, and I need the money anyway. Yeah, it's fine. Maybe I want to learn to unfold. Maybe the way is I want to learn how to allow, become vulnerable, become soft. Maybe gentleness is the way. And what if I give up that fight? That fight I may have with myself and with others, have the courage to soften. One of the slides that is in the first level of that RTA class is from Lao Tzu, right? It's about the water. The water is the softest thing, and yet it can penetrate mountains. It can penetrate mountains and earth. That shows, it reads, that shows clearly the principle of softness overcoming hardness. The way is wordless and it is quite soft, right? So I want to soften. When I soften, when I forgive, when I let go, I heal. It is in my gentleness that I unravel, that I unfurl, that I unfold. This is the way. Lori.
So it's so interesting because I had a client, I was doing structural reflexology with her, and she was referred to me by one of her friends who Geraldine was teaching. So it was actually from Geraldine that I got her. And so my ego got in there. Like and as we're talking, I could really sense it where I wanted to push her feet just a little bit further. So there's a little dance that I do opening up with the chest where it's kind of like, okay, we're kind of rocking back and forth and I'm rocking with it. And I'm rocking with her metatarsals and trying to, and at one point, and also the plantar part of her skin was really, sticky and kind of like you could tell that it hadn't had any work done. It's kind of rocky feeling, like granulated. I can't explain it. And so I'm like, part of me is like, slow this down. And part of my head was saying, you can't do this all in this one session. It needs to happen. The body, you need to be able to let the body have it this way for now. And then, and when she comes back, if she comes back, then you go ahead and you see if the body will respond again and open up a little bit more. And yet there's a part of me that's like, at the same time saying, yeah, but I want to be good because I want her to come back. I need the money. There's just like all those other things that are playing in there. And yet I had to listen to my, intuitively, like, we can't push this body anymore. It opened up nicely, but let's let it sit and let it go. So it's so interesting. It's so interesting to watch that all those dynamics play out. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank you for bringing up, and I'm always humbled by and want to continue to cultivate this in myself, that I may be so aware of what I'm doing that I can say and admit and say aloud, yeah, I'm doing that thing. I'm having pride right now. I'm wanting to be a good reflexologist, right? I want to know that about myself and the move. And so thank you for doing it. It's so endearing to me that we say it aloud, that we admit it, that we admit like this is a thing. Yeah, I struggle with pride. I struggle with ego. I struggle with control. Yeah. That's expression. That's liberation. So I notice some part of self, and then I have the courage to say it in front of another person or to a group, right? To say it aloud. It's liberty. Beautiful. Very good. What else did you say? You said one other thing. Oh, I wanted to say, so for anybody who might be watching this, that's not a reflexologist, Lori just said, I do this dance with the chest. And she was referring to, because then she followed that by saying metatarsal heads. So for those of you who are not reflexologists, um, the chest reflex area is over the metatarsal heads on both feet, right? It's bilateral. So the right foot would reflect the right side of the chest. That's the part she was talking about. So when she's talking about working that area, that expansiveness wasn't on the actual chest. It's actually at the level of the mini reflexology map. So just to clarify that for anybody who doesn't know reflexology. Yeah, anything else? Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. So then I wanted to ask, as we near the hour, it's amazing how quick time can go. It's remarkable. I wanted to ask the question. So now we're looking, we looked at, what is the way in if I'm providing, if I'm doing a body-based practice, namely reflexology, but it could be anything. And this can take us into conversations if somebody is a massage therapist. There's something called orthobionomy, which has really influenced my work. I don't do provide massage therapy. Although it is a part of my training, it is part of something I've done. It does influence my work. And I remember I took a class in orthobionomy, and boy, did it like open me up, open up my eyes to this idea of going in the direction of comfort instead of trying to pry open. So it really is not, this is not just for reflexology, right? A lot of people who might be watching this are reflexologists or interested in reflexology, but this conversation can percolate and go into other areas of one's life. Um, and also, I think, it's like that the goal for me is to become more central to myself. So when I'm taking a class or when I'm in a learning state and I'm listening, that I don't just pick up what someone's putting down, right? I don't just believe what the person is saying. I tap in and I ask, is this true for me? So maybe as I'm talking, if there's that sensation of like, but I think there is a time for deeper. This is like, yes, because we're all so different and the diversity of experience and our ways in is essential. There's not just one way. There's that word again, and there's not just one way. So that we may all a question and deeply ask ourselves and ask the question deeply within ourselves, right? May I reside within and ask these questions. Do I believe that painful stimuli, pressing deep, going deeply, possibly causing a little bit of pain might be beneficial? And then to rest with that, to meditate on it, hold that word a little bit. Is it possible? And it may be that there is sometimes that it's necessary, or it might be that it takes one deeper into the awareness that actually, like maybe there's not a reason, which leads me to the last question. Before we do, we'll just end with three kind of palming, gentle exercises over head, heart, and eyes. The questions then now become, uh, or this is where we expand the questions to, is pain, and maybe write this down if you could think about it later too, is pain necessary for a breakthrough to occur? So consider that in relationship to, modalities, physical modalities, like in relation to body work, for instance, or reflexology. Is it ever necessary? Consider that. Is it possible that alternating pain and lighter touch is an entryway? Is that true for you? Another question could be, is a gentle or more subtle approach or technique the more effective way in? Um, I guess ironically, can a gentle or more subtle approach be a way in, ironically, to more deeply heal? Ask this. And then what about spiritually? Is pain necessary for some kind of spiritual evolvement? Is it necessary emotionally? Is emotional pain necessary? A breakup, somebody departing this earth, a death, a tragedy. The depths of one's emotional pain, is there a time where that may be integral for my evolvement, emotionally, spiritually, or otherwise? And then I think, I'm even thinking of like little mistakes, and this depends on the person, but, I may have a belief around doing something right, want to do something right. So when I make a mistake, or when somebody sees me do this thing that was wrong or not great, oh, it feels painful. It feels bad. Is that necessary so that I may be in that place long enough to see that there is something on the other side of it? So to be witness to the part of a certain way of being in the world that cracks open my heart, cracks open the pain, makes me feel, maybe it even makes me feel some shame or guilt, some fear, some worry. And that state gets so low that then may bring me to another place. So if there's anything that comes to mind now, before we close, or you could also write about it, but is there anything that comes to mind now about emotional, spiritual, philosophical, psychological? Is there any, can you see a reason for the pain, a reason for a bottom, a reason for something god awful to stir something up? Lori.
So we talk about a breakdown before a breakthrough. So sometimes, I mean, I was having a lot of them for a while there, and now it's less, the breakdowns are more subtle because you have more of an awareness of it, and then the breakthroughs come in. So that is what my experience has been. Of course, I only change when there's pain, but that's unfortunate. But that seems to be the case. But yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
I do think that we need pain to grow spiritually. I truly believe that. I don't know why, but we do.
So strong. It's not a lot of words are necessary. What you just said is exactly it. Yeah.
If we talk to anybody who's been through stuff, right? All of us have it. And if you say, okay, well, look where I am now, and look where I was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 10 years ago. If you've done the work, you felt the pain, you worked through it. The breakthrough, like Lori said, you break down and then you break through. You grow. That's how you grow spiritually.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes. And yes, Rochelle says maybe it's necessary to release. I'm thinking of, and you tell me if this is true for you too, right? The release of tears, the release of old habits, old ways of being. It's like being inside a shell. I think I've brought this up before. I don't have the book here. It's over there. There's a book. Oh, golly. It's not coming to mind. But at the very start of it, the first chapter talks about the Polynesian creation story of like outgrowing your shell. And right, and like how painful it is to have to push and break out, right? Yeah, that idea of needing to cry, growing pains, exactly. Perfect. Yeah, we have words for this, right? Very good. Yeah. I was with I ran into someone this morning and she said a few words and then she just started to cry. Um and she said, "Yes, I think I guess I was all bottled up. I think I just needed to cry." Um and yeah, and I believe we do. I know I do. And everything that you all are saying and writing is feels really true for me, is like that awareness of something's sometimes I gotta have a god awful thing happen, or maybe I'm taking care of myself or not taking care of myself in such a way that it illuminates later how this is painful, and that pain then leads to something else. It's really good. Everything. Yeah, thank you. Really good. All right. So we're going to do these three little exercises. They're not really exercises. We're just going to palm quickly, not quickly. We're going to palm over the head, the heart, and the eyes, anatomically and reflexologically. So the first would be, yeah, let's do it one right after the other. So we're going to begin with our palms over our head. So my palms are on my head and let it be my entire head. My head is not just that, right? My head is this whole thing. There are parts I can name, right? The skull, the occipital ridge, cheekbones, my temporal lobes, my parietal lobes, but all of it is my head. So you touch your head. Maybe I go here, I palm these frontal lobes at the level of the prefrontal cortex. Everything is bilateral, two sides. And then I could actually greet my head just by greeting my fingertips like this. This is not necessarily reflexology, but in reflexology, in the mapping system, the fingers, the toes, the tips, the pads make up the head reflex area. I could also, and those of you who have been in my live classes know, I take my solar plexus reflex area and I place it at the level of my own or someone else's, in this case, head. So I go here and I hold it at the level of my throat or my heart. I like to rest on my chin and my arms are at my sides. So I'm being held. This is very comfortable for me. So my solar plexus reflex area is here. It goes over my head. And do the other side. I like to lower my gaze, but for me, it's been really impactful also to look outside. So when inside, I look out a window also when I'm doing this. It becomes like a meditation. I could place my palms at the level of my heart. So I'm palming my actual heart below this shell. My heart resides within. I could take a breath and enter my back body. Remember, I have a back body. My heart is here and it's there. And I can palm my heart. Now the heart reflex area, maybe here, maybe here, maybe here on both sides. So if I was with a client, I would take my solar plexus area over their heart. In this case, with self-care, I would do it like this. So I greet my hands like this, almost like I'm about to shake my own hand. I go like this. So I'm here. You could see all the different angles of that. And I collapse right over gently over the heart reflex area. And I rest my elbows on my desk. And I hold at the level of my throat, a few inches from my fingers resting on my chin, looking at the trees. Or at the kitty, or at the floor. And do the other side. There are two sides of the heart. And finally, I'm going to start reflexology. I'm going to take these tips of my fingers and I'm just going to gently rest over my eye and ear reflex area. So I'm just going to go like this, as if these fingertips are going to greet the very tops of my metacarpal heads. So they rest, or I could be in between a little bit, whatever's easiest for you. Your intention is to greet eyes, ears, inner ear. Same resting on my table, elbows, my hand resting on my chin. Do the other side here, resting on my chin. And finally, we take the palms. You could either make like cups, or I like to feel it. So I'll do the lower part of my palm. I will actually place it over my eyelid, and then my elbows on my desk. And I really, this is the top self-care thing that I show people in my self-care classes and to my clients is that we palm the eyes. Our eyes are working overtime. So I go like this, and we will hold it for 1 whole minute. And I will let you know when a minute is up. And you could go ahead and let that go. My cat was just going back and forth. I could feel her fur brush past my hands while I was doing that. So that's palming the eyes. Those three things, I'm good now. You know, it doesn't take much. When I think of self-care, it doesn't have to be an hour-long class or an hour-long bath, or sometimes just 3 minutes, 3 little minutes, and becoming like quite curious about my tissue, my body, and using the palms of my hand over just picking 3 areas like that. Um, I want to open it up one more time to how you feel. Anything more, any other insights or ideas you have, and then we'll end with a quote. Mm, nice. Let there be no words. I dig it. I love it. We're going to end with a quote. I have two. They're from The Prophet by Gibran. Oh, yes, good. Very soothing. I love that word, soothing. Thank you. Really good. All right. I'm going to read them both because this came up this morning in conversation with the example I gave earlier. We were speaking of happiness and how, and I asked myself this question, and I'm aware of when I hear it in others, someone says, "What is it you want?" I just want to be happy. I've said that before. I've heard other people say it before. And I think I want to hold that a little bit longer. I want to pause before I rush to that because it is not happiness I seek. Happiness. It's fleeting. It's an emotional response to something else. There's something else that's occurring that I want to be present for. It's much more that word granular that you used earlier, Lori, right? There's something, it's very granular. It's quite imperceivable. Happiness is a go-to, and it can get me in a lot of trouble if I'm seeking happiness because, come on, there's something else I seek. And it may actually be through a sense of joy or a sense of pain that I may arrive in a place where I'm deeply myself. I'm deeply able to sense myself and see another. So I'm going to read both of these then. They're both from the prophet. And yeah. Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is the greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come, and when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. In this translation, that word board means like table. So you may envision like there's joy and there's sorrow. Joy may be sitting at my table in the kitchen, and sorrow may be at my bed. They coexist, they're interdependent, they exist in the same home. The next one is this. And a woman spoke, saying, tell us of pain. And he said, your pain is the breaking of the shell that encloses your understanding. Even as the stone of the fruit must break, that its heart may stand in the sun, so must you know pain. And could you keep your heart in wonder at the daily miracles of your life? Your pain would not seem less wondrous than your joy, and you would accept the seasons of your heart, even as you have always accepted the seasons that pass over your fields. And you would watch with serenity through the winters of your grief. Much of your pain is self-chosen. It is the bitter potion by which the physician within you heals your sick self. Therefore, trust the physician and drink his remedy in silence and tranquility, for his hand, though heavy and hard, is guided by the tender hand of the unseen. And the cup he brings, though it burns your lips, has been fashioned of the clay which the potter has moistened with his own sacred tears. And that is by Kahil Gibran from The Prophet. And with this, I leave you. Have a beautiful day. Thank you for being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chantel.
It's my pleasure. So good to see your face. So good to see you and hear you.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Chantel.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Mhm.